What's good, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. I hope that everybody is having a wonderful Monday evening. So, Nelly is in the headlines. He's out promoting his show with Ashanti, his wife. They have a new show on Peacock. And unfortunately, the clips that I've seen, I have decided that I'm not going to cover it on this channel. I'm not going to do recaps or reviews on it just because the more I find out about Nelly and his character, the less I like him. And it's unfortunate, right? Because, I was really young when his music came out. It was fun. It was, the same lunatics. I really enjoyed his music. But the more I find out about his character, between the allegations, the illegal substances, and, the way that the snippets that I have seen online in regards to his negligence of taking care of his and Ashanti's son, that's really not cool. Him sleeping through the night, while she's having to get up, and he's really not helping with any kind of childcare responsibilities. To me, it's just bum behavior, right? Because that's half your seed, it's half your child as well. And also, him performing at the Trump inauguration rubbed me the wrong way as well. So now he comes out once again, because I'm not the only person, I guess, that he rubbed the wrong way in regards to him performing for Trump. Because I feel like if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. But typical, misogynistic, like he's going to direct that or try to flip it and deflect it to former VP Kamala Harris, who was catching a stray because she's trying to be, stay moisturized and mind her business and decide whether she wants to, get into this pony race once again in 2028. I don't know. But with Nelly, he's on a promo tour with, his show on Peacock. I get that. But him bringing, Kamala Harris into the situation because of her choice of husband, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. Let's go ahead and get into this article. So it says rapper Nelly seemingly took aim at former Vice President Kamala Harris and her quote unquote white husband, which again, it's like, first of all, Doug is Jewish, but I don't see why he would need to bring up the fact that her husband, is white, except he's trying to, again, like I said, deflect from the accountability of his own actions. Because it's not even about the color of someone's skin, but like, Dr. King says, the content of their character. And when you run down everything about our current president and his character, the 34 felonies, the multiple, wives that he cheated on repeatedly, Stormy Daniels, just, the list goes on and on. Elon Musk blasting him about the alleged, Epstein list. We probably will never find out about that. But just, he's only been in office for what, 6 months? And he's just, tried to gut almost everything. They're voting on a bill right now that's going to take away, healthcare, Medicaid for so many people. Just, he's cut the weather service, he's cut cancer funding research, he's cut just almost all the goods and services that we need, with the exception of the military, right? He threw a 45, I believe, $1 million military parade for him just a few weeks ago on his birthday. And it's just like, him and Elon Musk supposedly created Doge to get rid of waste in the government, as far as trying to be fiscally responsible, because that's supposedly what the Republican Party is, or at least it used to be, that used to be one of their core values. And it's just like, that was a huge waste of money, not to mention a lot of people did not show up. And so, with the ICE raids going on, just there's so much going on that the color of Trump's skin, which in my opinion he looks more, tangerine every day, is irrelevant. Let's go ahead and get into and Kamala Harris's husband, Doug, the color of his skin is irrelevant as well. During a recent interview Nelly addressed backlash over his inauguration performance. The rapper claimed that he's not, quote unquote, pro Donald Trump, but he decided to accept the gig out of respect for the office. Listen, you know who did not accept the gig out of respect for the office or didn't show up? Jalen Hurts, my favorite quarterback. Shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Because he stood on his integrity. Beyonce, you know what I mean? She came out and campaigned for Kamala Harris. Why? Because it was what Harris stood for. You have to have some kind of integrity. You have to decide what you want to, show people that you believe in. He says Nelly also argued that he did an event with Harris before she became the Democratic candidate. He said for the 2024 presidential election, but quote unquote, nobody ever brought it up. Well, Nelly, listen, again, like I said, I thought of, Beyonce because she was there in her presidential campaign. But no, if nobody knew that you were supporting Harris, then why didn't you let that be known then? And if you were in support of Harris, then why did you cross over and, perform for Donald Trump? That makes no sense. As social media users reacted to his comments, Nelly took to Instagram to double down on his defense. Nelly shot back at his critics, saying that he and Snoop Dogg, who also faced backlash for performing at Trump's inauguration, he said, quote, "They do more in the community and have been doing so for 20 plus years against any of you that are just on here talking trash." They might, I can't think of any foundation or anything that they do for the community. I can think of, like Jay-Z, I can think of LeBron James opening up the school in Akron, Ohio. Shout out to the James Foundation. I can think of, Meghan Markle and Harry and, their philanthropic work. I can't think of any, not that I'm saying that, he doesn't, but off the top of my head, I've never heard anything about that. He says, quote, "From the Black families that we employ to the Black children that we help every day and all year through our nonprofits, whether we're sending kids to school on scholarships to HBCUs or helping young Black boys in the LA Gang Central with his junior football programs, which many players have went on to the NFL and live their dreams." So Nelly wrote this in a Shade Room post on Instagram. So he's been doing more. And listen, when you're a multimillionaire and you give money to a nonprofit or you establish a nonprofit, that's a really nice tax break. And I'm not saying that's why he's doing that, but you shouldn't do things to, get recognition, period. But if you do, that's great. But again, that doesn't necessarily negate you standing behind somebody who has just a very, in my opinion, just a low vibrational character, right? Like you would not want your son, KK, any of your children, Nelly, to grow up and emulate the character of Donald Trump. At least we would hope not, right? Because 34 felonies is not cute for anybody, let alone the commander-in-chief. He added that him and Snoop Dogg should be viewed as inspiring Black men who marry beautiful Black women with Black children, an apparent jab at Harris for what he called her quote-unquote white husband. He says, "Some of y'all have a problem with us because the prosecutor, who has probably locked up more Black men than we've helped, women of color with the white husband and white kids, did not win the election," he wrote. That was shady, and that was unnecessarily because Kamala Harris is minding her Black business. Like, why is she catching strays because people are upset with you performing for Trump? That has nothing to do with Harris. Absolutely not. That was a choice that you made, sir. Like, you're going to have to stand in that. You're the one that has to look in the mirror every day. You're the one that has to go to sleep, thinking, never mind, let Ashanti tell it. He sleeps just fine. The one snippet I'll say that I did watch online, because of course, clips are all up and down the news feed since they're promoting the show, is Ashanti's mom, she's also her manager. They were talking and, she said that her mom said that her father was huge in the civil rights movement. And, she said that Nelly lending his platform to try to legitimize Trump and everything that he stands for is a really big, issue. And I agree with her. It really is a huge issue. It reminds me it reminds me a little bit, and I should not laugh at this. But have y'all been on TikTok and seen the people who are singing the song I will vote for Donald Trump," and they got the Cuban music. And listen, the song is a bop. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, they slid. But then cut to so many people are crying and sobbing, and a lot of the Cubans are, just saying how betrayed they feel. A lot of the Venezuelans in Miami are saying, that Donald Trump used them essentially. Donald Trump is somebody, in my opinion, who really does not care for anybody other than himself. And that's on Mike Pence, you know what I mean? And the January 6th insurrectionists. Like, this is not a man that has, a high caliber of integrity, period. And we saw that the first administration. I'm telling you, when he got reelected, my gabbers were flaccid. But Elon Musk came out and said that he wouldn't have won the election without him. And to me, that explained a lot. Nevertheless, you choose, who you stand for, what you stand for. And, unfortunately, Chrisette Michelle, she lost her entire career performing for Donald Trump. And that was on, during the first inauguration. We haven't heard anything from her since. And so, Nelly and Snoop Dogg are both men, so they don't have to deal with, misogyny or sexism. But him trying to throw Kamala Harris and her husband under the bus, it's like apples and oranges. Like, why is she catching strays, and why is Doug Imhoff catching strays? Because they wanted the best for people. If you look at Kamala Harris and her platform, she wanted to help, first time home buyers with $25,000 grants. She wanted to, just basically help the American people. I'm not even going to go through her whole platform, but we really missed out on having a decent, qualified president in the White House. And so many people voted for Donald Trump, in my opinion, because of, they aligned with his identity, one that was petty and vengeful, and, they wanted to align with that power. The Cubans, I feel like, they, voy a votar for Donald Trump. I will vote. I'm telling y'all, it's a bop, and it begins stuck in my head. I have to log off on TikTok. But it's really not funny. I'm only laughing because, like I said, the song is a bop and they slid on it. But these same people voted for somebody who, they were expecting him to harm the other people, right? Because they viewed themselves in the fullness of their humanity. But I'm thinking to myself, did y'all not hear what he said about Mexicans and the generalizations that he made about brown people as a whole? He has a whole list of countries that are banned from visiting the United States, from the Caribbean islands to Cuba to African countries to, if your country is mostly made up of people of color, 9 times out of 10 is probably on that list. And the gag is that, even though in the Western world, Western societies like, the US and UK, and I think Australia, there's a white majority of people, that number is dwindling quickly. There's only, I think, a 7%, the white people make up 7% of the global, they're a global minority, basically. So that's what I'm saying. Skin color really shouldn't be relevant. It should be about someone's character, right? Because the demographics, not only in our country, are changing, but just around the world. So I think, instead of talking about skin color, we should be examining power dynamics, because that's truly what it is. You wanted to align yourselves with somebody powerful, that proximity to power, right? You could say, white supremacy as a culture a cultural virtue or core value that a lot of people believe in. Some people, the MAGAs, even worship it. And they fuse their identity with Donald Trump and what he stands for. And it's unfortunate because now people look at you, Nelly, they're going to associate that with you. It's almost like a stain on your career, because you could have just opted out. Like, one thing I love about Jalen Hurts is he is somebody who has a strong moral character. And he said that, I think half of the Eagles went because, like you said, they respected the office, whatever. But he just said that he didn't feel that it was vital to his career trajectory. He just chose, him and other players chose not to attend. And that's great. That's one of the great things about this country, right? That we do have, freedom of speech so far, right? Child, they are stripping freedoms and rolling back civil rights faster than you can say hot in here. That's the issue. It has nothing, well, I shouldn't say it has nothing to do with, because everything in this country has something to do with skin color, unfortunately, but it's more so the power dynamics, because right now we're living in a time where, there really are no checks and balances. We have, a majority Republican Congress, judicial branch, legislative branch, and of course we have Donald Trump. And they're all like bending the knee. It's ridiculous. So to see Nelly essentially do the same thing and then get mad when people rightfully call him out on it, it's an issue. It's problematic. But I would just say leave Kamala, and Doug out of this. They're private citizens. They're doing what they need to do. I don't know if she's going to run again. I don't even know if it will be wise for her to run again. I would love if she did. And I would love if people would be able to judge her based on her qualifications, right? But I feel like the first thing they do look at is skin color. The first thing they do look at is the fact that she's a woman. But even taking skin color out of it, Hillary Clinton was also qualified. She didn't get elected either. So it is what it is. When people, think about Donald Trump, then they're going to associate you with that, unfortunately. The rapper reiterated that he didn't campaign for either Trump or Harris, but performed out of the inauguration, out of respect and love for the country. He said, "It's my respect for the office, meaning that any president that calls upon Nelly would be an honor. It has nothing to do with money." I don't think that they were paid. And that's another thing. Donald Trump is also known for not paying his bills, not paying people. So there you go. That's another value, core value. Like, I'm like, people have to look at Donald Trump as somebody who, I guess, they want to have the ability to commit crimes or to get away with doing all this stuff. They call him a Teflon Don. Because I'm like, there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing aspirational outside of, just him being powerful. But it's like all he does is use that power to hurt people. He doesn't make people's lives better. He says it has nothing to do with race, but if you want to make it about race, then let's go. I find it very interesting. Now, see, you're the one who threw Kamala Harris and her quote unquote, white husband underneath the bus because you're feeling the heat from people rightfully calling you out about performing for Donald Trump. In my opinion, like I said, it really has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with somebody's moral character and who they are as an individual. And we know who Donald Trump is as an individual. It's unfortunate that, he is leading again, in my opinion, because, like I said, he's rolled back so many, just things that help people, from cancer research to, and the people that he's put in charge. Like, planes didn't start, dropping out of the sky until the transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, he's from the real world. These people do not know what they're doing. We have RFK Jr., who, has a brain worm. Or we have, the education secretary who's trying to dismantle public education. It's just like every single thing got, 10 times worse once his administration took over. And it's only been 6 months, take skin color out of it. I just want things to run smoothly. Um, and it's unfortunate because people are now emulating, the ICE officers, and they're using it to harm women, to kidnap people off the streets. I mean, this is just a mess. A lot of the farmers saying that they're about to go bankrupt. And they're rolling back environmental protections. Everything is skyrocketing. The price of eggs has not come down one penny. It's just like, skin color is really the last thing that people, in my opinion, should be concerned about. Um, it's everything else. It's basically dismantling American democracy that should be on the forefront of everyone's mind. But anyway, those are my thoughts. You guys let me know yours in the comment section. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk with you in the next one. Take care, Aces. Bye.